The African American Legend series highlights the accomplishments of blacks in areas as varied as politics, sports, aviation, business, literature, and religion. We will explore how African Americans have succeeded in areas where they'd been previously excluded because of segregation, racism, lack of opportunity. I'm your host, Dr. Roscoe C. Brown, Jr., and with us today is Patricia Cruz, who's Executive Director of Harlem Stage. Welcome to African American Legends.
Thank you. It's so good to be back with you.
Now, tell us about Harlem Stage, the Gatehouse, Aaron Davis, etc. You've done such a great job there. So let's tell us what Harlem Stage is.
Thank you. Harlem Stage is the entity that used to be known as Aaron Davis Hall, Inc. And we began our programs there almost 30 years ago. And about 10 years ago, Dr. Brown, we decided we needed a home of our own. There was an abandoned gatehouse building that was a part of the Croton Aqueduct system that was right across the street from Aaron Davis Hall. And as an independent nonprofit entity, we decided that we could take on the restoration of that building and turn it into a new facility for performing arts in Harlem. And we did that at the Gatehouse.
It's a beautiful facility. It's an old water station, part of the aqueduct that used to bring water to New York City. It's not any longer used for that.
Right.
Tell us, how did you renovate it? What did you do?
Well, 10 years and $26 million later, we actually had to take out the first floor of that building. And you should know, back in 1876, when the building was first built, it was used, as you said, as a gatehouse, actually, for water to flow from the Croton down to the various reservoirs in New York, because it's at one of the highest points. So we took out some of the floors after the building had been abandoned by the waterworks and created offices in the lower level, and a performing arts space, a theater space, which is very flexible, on the second floor, where people used to walk in to see what they thought was the newest technology, water moving through, to now see culture and art that has been made by artists of color and that is engaged in by our entire community at the Harlem Stage Gatehouse. So we do programming there, but we also still do it at Aaron Davis Hall. We have a great relationship with the new president of City College, and we are happy to continue the programming that we do there as well.
Now tell me, how did you raise $26 million to do this project?
With a lot of hard work. But without being glib, it was with the help of our board and incredible help of our community. The city was the primary sponsor. In fact, the Gatehouse is a city-owned building and facility, just like the Metropolitan Museum and the Bronx Zoo are all city-owned buildings and facilities, and we are that as well. So the city gave us very handsome support. The majority of the support came from the city. We worked with the Department of Design and Construction, in addition to Department of Cultural Affairs, to work on that building. But our board was critical in raising additional private monies, as were a number of corporations, foundations, and individuals who believe in our work.
Now, in terms of your support, you get it from your gate receipts, or you get it from contributions, you get it from the State Council of the Arts, or all of those? All
of those. We have a great mix of support. I think we are in an ideal position. Approximately a third of our funding comes from public sources, the Department of Cultural Affairs, the New York State Council on the Arts, and the NEA. We also have wonderful corporations and foundations that support us as well. And then we have private individuals, but we do have an important part of our income that comes from earned income, and that's ticket sales as well as leasing activity. So we're able to open up the doors to other organizations that need a space. We do it in partnership with them, and that increases our income.
Well, you have a panoply of programs,
yes,
ranging from drama to music to acting and so on. How do you make a decision as to what you're going to offer at the Gatehouse?
A part of it is that I have an incredible staff. Our Director of Programming, Brad Laramonth, our Programming Manager, Simone Eccleston, are all working with me, and we bring in curators and consultants to help us to make determinations about who's going to be on the various series that we do. We have a program called Waterworks, which is named for the building, And that is a program in which we commission new works to be developed by artists of color.
New, what kind of works?
Well, they can be theater works, like we're working right now with some artists, Jawale from Urban Bushwomen and Nora Chibamari, who are working on a piece called, and that's going to be one of the first premieres of Waterworks. They're working on a piece called Visible Invisible. And interestingly, for this program, it really deals with issues of the migration from the South to the North to cities like New York and communities like Harlem, and the influence that those people have had on these communities, and the influence that these cities have had on those people who have migrated from the South into the North.
Will this be a film, or is it going to be
No,
dance?
it's a dance. That's a dance work. And one of the things that's so wonderful about it is that usually this process of commissioning takes 2 to 3 years. So we've been working with them. They do workshops, work in progress showings at the Gatehouse. So we really get an opportunity for the community to feed back. Our audiences come in, they look at the work, and they can say, I didn't get that part, or this part was very moving, or this part really upset me. And it doesn't mean that the work will be transformed by that, but it will be informed by that feedback. So there's really a chance for our audiences, our community, to participate in the creative process, because I think that's one of the most important things that any community, any individual can have.
Well, one thing that's very attractive about Harlem Stage is you have music, you have film, you have dance, you have spoken word. How do you decide to stretch that out? What is your plan?
We try to balance it, and we look at what the programs are going to be for the year. But we look at artists that we have a great deal of respect for, some that we've worked with in the past, like Carl Hancock works on a piece on Mackendal that he's doing on the Haitian revolutionary figure. I mean, we are looking at artists who are thinking, who have a critique, and are really looking at the impact of their work as on social justice. How do we arrive, both as artists and as individuals, as citizens, at being able to make judgments about who we are and what we want the shape of our country, our communities, our individual homes to be? And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do. But we're looking for artists who have those ideas, Dr.
Now,
Brown.
it's Harlem Stage, and Harlem begins at, 96th Street and goes up to 168th Street now.
It does.
What is your community? What community do you actually reach out to?
I think we do our primary reach to the community that's right around us. And by that I mean in Upper Manhattan. However, what we learned is that people come from all over, so that we have a great deal of people who are coming from the Upper West Side. We have, because of a new program that we're doing called Uptown Nights, we've got a large community that's coming in from Brooklyn to participate in these programs. It's a fun mix, and I think we actually have one of the most fully integrated audiences in the city. And when I mean integration, I mean everything from economic diversity to age diversity. We were doing a program that we thought would attract young people, 25 to 40, and it ends up being a much broader range. So, and we have international guests who come in as well to see these works, because again, we're building a reputation, and now many of our programs are being sold out, and we're very proud of that.
Now, as Harlem changes in terms of its economic and ethnic and racial composition, what is going to be the role of a place like Harlem Stage to keep the spirit of Harlem alive?
Well, I think certainly the programs that we do that honor the tradition that came out of Harlem is critical to that. One of the things that we're doing that's coming up this month is a program called Digital Diaspora, and we're working with a wonderful filmmaker, Thomas Allen Harris, who came to us with a project. You know, you asked how we selected our program. Sometimes great artists come to us and they say, this is what I want to do. So they're doing a program called Digital Diaspora. Within that program, people from our community are coming in. They're invited, kind of like Antiques Roadshow, but they're coming in with their photographs of their families. And these are the treasures, because these treasures that they bring in lead to the stories. Those stories contribute to a history. And what happens is we find that we are stabilizing the community by showing people that their lives have value and that together we can sustain our community. It doesn't mean stopping anybody else from coming in, but it says these are strong, contributing members of this community, and we want people to work together to sustain the incredible, rich, and cosmopolitan community that Harlem is.
But once they bring these photographs and memorabilia in, and I guess you photograph them and put them on the computer, how will other people in the community get a chance to see these?
Well, they'll broadcast them. They have a website on which they will be broadcast, but there will also be certain stories and pictures that are selected, and that will be through the Family Reunion Project, which culminates at the end of the month. So
in other words, the people are actually going to come to Harlem Stage and hug each other and show these pictures and so on?
Well, I don't know about hugging, but certainly people do that regardless. But we do think that they will enjoy the stories that have been unearthed about each other, and that those stories will inform history in ways that frequently have been omitted from our history, our understanding of who we are. And I have to tell you, I'm as excited as many of the people in the community, because I've got a whole, I've got a whole bunch of photographs myself of my family. And I think what happens is you learn more about yourself in this process as well as about your neighbors. So that's one of the things that's most immediate coming up in what we're doing.
Now, you have this wonderful brochure. It's called Misbehaving in Harlem.
That's right.
It's based on Fats Waller's Ain't Misbehaving.
Absolutely.
And then you have a whole panoply of various programs, music programs, dance programs, etc. How does someone find out about these programs?
Well, they definitely have to go to the website. www.harlemstage.org is the place to find out everything that we're doing. And you've mentioned some of the programs, and one of the ones that's coming up later in the season is Soul Remixed, Revisited, and Reconstructed. And that's with the wonderful band leader and pianist Mark Carey, and he will be working with young artists, and that's another part of the selection process, artists that may not be known, like The Crowd and other groups that are not known by the broader public, but are known by us and by people like Mark, who have identified artists who he wants to work with, and they'll be looking at a specific kind of genre of later soul and how it has evolved. So that'll be a part of our Uptown Night series. It'll be late night with dancing, as well as the enjoyment of music.
The audience can dance?
Absolutely.
And we do this in the Gatehouse?
Absolutely.
You do some programs at Aaron Davis as well, do you not?
We do, and we have a number of programs that we've done there, and we continue to do that. And that has been wonderful because it gives us a larger stage. So we are continuing to do that. But you mentioned the program that we're doing with Fats Waller, which I'm very proud of, because it's two things. It's really, we are partnering really in an historic partnership on the first Harlem Jazz Festival. And we will be doing that with the Apollo and with Jazzmobile. So all of us will be doing programs later on in the spring. And we are very proud. And the idea behind it is to reinvigorate and look at the history of the jazz shrines. And that's what the festival is called, Harlem Jazz Shrines. And we're looking at the Apollo, we're looking at Small's Paradise, we're looking at Park Palace, all the places in which jazz was created and was sustained. But this is going to be the new look. So what we're doing as a part of that, we're working with Jason Moran, who's just won the 2010 MacArthur Genius Award, and he's the youngest jazz musician, certainly, to have won that. And he's going to be working with Michelle Indigocello to recreate the music of Fats Waller. And that's why our entire series is called Misbehaving. So that program will be the Fats Waller Dance Party. And again, people will be invited to come into the Gatehouse, dance to the music that has been reinterpreted of Fats Waller, and we are actually going to premiere that work as a benefit for Harlem Stage. So that will be done as the first night of a series of things that we're doing in that regard. But I thought that you would be particularly interested, just as I am. I mean, Fats Waller was such an incredible entertainer, and while he's known for the smiling and all the entertaining things that he did, he could play the piano forever. And one of the things that's great about Jason is that he acknowledges that and then moves forward with that and sustains that belief.
Now, how far does your outreach go? You've got some great programs, but there's a tendency sometimes for groups just to be insular.
Yeah.
How do these things reach out to the rest of the Harlem community? Because in Harlem, we have the Dwyer, we have Boza Rivers, we have the Apollo, we have the African American Museum, the Studio Museum where you used to work. How do these things link together?
Well, we definitely do cross-marketing with one another, and that's one of the things with the Harlem Jazz Shrines. We really are working together programmatically, and I think that's a very important aspect of what we do. So we're sharing resources, sharing space, as well as artists. So I think that's an important thing. But also, we've gotten very savvy and a part of the 21st century, and my young staff, not me, have hooked us up with Facebook, Twitter.
That's right.
So all of the social networking sites and activities we are very involved in. And that's why the website is so important, because people can blog us, we can talk about ideas that are common with the artist, and we're really moving out not only into Harlem, where we're based, but into the world, so that everyone knows, once again, as you know, Harlem was one of the few communities in the world that was known throughout the world just by its name of the community, not the city, not the, so it was Harlem, New York. And I think we can together, and I think that's an important point, because all of these new programs that are coming up, we're doing work with Columbia, and they're actually collaborating with us on the Jazz Shrine project in terms of the humanities. So we have scholars, we have artists coming together to spread the word and to make the history better understood.
But why do you think Harlem as a brand throughout the world is associated with black culture and with the development of music and innovative value? Why is it Harlem? Why did that happen?
I think that New York has been for the last century a place which was identified with innovation and with creativity.
Because of its diversity.
Because of its diversity, but also because of its location. And I think its diversity is very important, but it became diverse also because of its location. You're right on the ocean. You have all of the things that come together. You have commerce and art and industry all working together. Harlem was a place in which African Americans felt comfortable coming to after various other groups came. I mean, you have a strong Latino community in Harlem. We're working with them as well. One of our programs is called Habana Harlem. So we are constantly embracing all of the people of color who came to Harlem, who live there now, and who are creating. But I do think that people came because they felt that they wanted to be in the world, even though they were in one place. And I think that interconnectedness, and that's certainly why I came to New York, and it was because I could feel that I was connected to the world in ways that I might not have felt even in Chicago, where I'm from.
Yet in Harlem, we've had political crises, we've had riots, we've said our schools have not gotten the resources they need, our health care. What does culture do to help uplift a community like Harlem?
Well, I think I believe that artists have a vision, and their ability to interpret our society is what is most valuable about them. Whether they're doing that through music, or whether they're doing it through painting, or doing it through spoken word, or theater, or dance, they become I think, the leaders for us to be able to see what we might not otherwise see. Because I think as individuals, what happens is you get tunnel vision, you get blocked in terms of what is functionally significant for you. But I think that what we know that artists can do is kind of penetrate through that, see who we are as individuals and as society, and make us all able to think creatively. And I think if you can't think creatively, you probably can't survive.
But still, we have some artists who've been very successful. And somehow or another, when they're successful, they tend to leave Harlem and leave our community. What can we do to get some of them back to support Harlem Stage, for example?
Well, I think we have a very good, track record of that. Certainly, there's certain people who have never left us, like Ruby Dee. She was recently at the Gatehouse, along with many other people who recently were there, along with you. And they do return because they believe so much in the idea of Harlem, and they're constantly giving back. And then there are younger artists who we continue to work with. Bill T. Jones, who has relocated out of Harlem in terms of his headquarters, but he's still doing programs with us and still doing programs that reflect not only Harlem, but the cosmopolitan nature of any city and the kinds of visions that he brings to that. Certainly people like Randy Weston, who has been out in the world, but who has come back because his world vision is one that is centered in the African diaspora and what it means. Certainly that's true of Jawole as well. Carl Hancock Rux are all artists who believe in the idea of both the creative vision and sharing that vision.
One thing I think we need to do is to get more people who live in Harlem to support the Harlem arts.
You're right about that.
Now, what are you doing to do that?
Okay, we are doing, as I said, later in the season, we will be having a fundraiser. So everyone who is interested in supporting Harlem Stage can go on our website, www.harlemstage.org, hit the donate button, and become a part of our contributors. We have a members program, we have a commissioning circle program, but I think you're absolutely right. We need individuals in our community and from around the country, especially who believe in African American culture and culture of the African diaspora, to be able to contribute to us to sustain these programs, because as you know, it's very expensive. Artists cannot make art out of thin air. They need space, they need money, and they need resources to make that work. And we provide that through our commissioning work. So individuals can work directly with artists and support us in making those works happen. The fundraiser is going to be around Fats Waller again. It'll be the premiere of that program. So we think that that's an ideal opportunity for folks who want to contribute to us to come on in and do it.
Now, what do you do with the schools?
Oh, we serve over 10,000 children a year.
They come during the day.
They come during the day for our International Series program. And we go...
What is your International Series?
That is a program for school children, and that is the primary program in which we engage school children in some of the very same programs that I've talked to you about. So when we have urban bushwomen in doing a particular program, they will do one program for our children, and then they will also do one for their families. So we're constantly integrating our programs, but we've grown it also to do programs now in the schools. So we're sending artists into the schools so that they're working more fully and in a more engaged school. One of the things that we're very proud of is the program that we have with A. Philip Randolph High School. And we're sending artists in. They're looking at career days to look at the opportunities that they have in the arts that are not just being on a stage, but being on a stage and doing all the back scene work that makes all of this happen. So we feel that we're fully engaged in Harlem, and that is a program that is primarily centered in Harlem schools and serving Harlem schools.
I notice you have a program on rap and the evolution of rap, because one of the things between some of the older generation and younger generation is they don't understand rap.
Right. Well, we have an Uptown Mics program and open mic program that we're doing in which some of the young people are actually seeing rap, engaged in rap, but also able to speak their own poetry and their own rap lyrics. And I think one of the things that happens is through these programs, they're more exposed to various kinds of writing so that that can inform their own work.
When you say exposed to various kinds of writing, you mean different genres?
Genres, poetry, literature, so that they're really looking at the breadth of the written word and how it has been transformed into the spoken word, and then how that translates back into rap.
So you have poetry programs as well?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now you integrate the poetry and the dance sometimes?
Yes, because frequently artists are working with poets, so they make their choices. So for example, with Mockendal, Carl Hancock Rux has written essentially an opera, which has a very poetic base, because you need that for it to be sung, and for there to be music to it. Yosvani Terry, a brilliant young Cuban composer, is writing the music for it. So again, it's all, one of the things that's wonderful about opera is that it's integrated and whole.
Well, one of the things wonderful about Harlem Stage is Patricia Cruz. The energy that you bring is really great. Thanks for being with us today on African American Legends.
Thanks so much.